You are listening to Scott H. Silverman's Happy Hour, a podcast released on the first 3 Wednesdays of the month. Family crisis, relationship crisis, addiction crisis, no two crisis situations are the same. They vary by family, individual, and relationship. They can encompass complex family dynamics, emotional distress, anger issues, and entitlements, and often involve substance abuse. This podcast addresses these issues and others surrounding the addiction epidemic currently plaguing this country and the world. There is hope and help.
Are you stuck, scared, or unsure of what to do next? If a situation with a loved one, spouse, or even a child has started to spiral, possibly becoming dangerous or threatening, it's time to seek help. My name is Scott H. Silverman. I help families navigate crisis situations. I'm the person you turn to in order to get you and your loved ones unstuck.
Welcome back to the show. This is Scott H. Silverman's Happy Hour. Scott, what's going on?
Well, let's just jump right into it, Michael. Actually,
I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Michael, by the way.
Yes. How are you, Michael? Yeah, this is the second time in a row. No, every other show, Michael forgets his first name, and that's okay. We're in the business of helping people, and we're going to help Michael as best we can. Michael basically co-produces, and he's the real personality behind this, and he's the one that's going to take all of our faux pas and replace them with kind words in case we go that direction. Anyway, welcome to Scott H. Silverman's Happy Hour. If you don't call me this week, I'm going to be upset. When you get this number, call me 619-993-2738. And I told Michael I wouldn't rant today. I want to put a minute out there and say, look, if you're not frustrated with what's going on with the leadership in this country right now, then you're not watching the news. And if you're not, God bless you and good on you, keep it going. But, and I don't want to get into the details. I'm going to save it for my Stigma podcast next week, because it's so frustrating for me personally to watch the people that are our leaders say one thing, do another, and now they're bringing these recording ins that completely display some form of the truth. And and watching what's going on in Ukraine has just been horrible to see with the death rates and the horror and the violence that's taking place. So
that's on End of the Stigma with Fred. You're gonna
yeah. We do that Mondays, but it's so if you're frustrated as a human being on the planet today, you're probably in the majority, but do something about it. Practice some self-care, call for help, talk to others. And that's part of what, Happy Hour is all about. And we try to bring guests on that can not only add value to your life, but to my life personally, and someone who likes to, I like to say, connect to the organic part of the planet and really be a resource. And we're real excited about our guest today. And I'm not going to tell you much about her. Even though I know some things about her, but I'm going to let her tell you. But Colleen is a buddy of mine who has a whole different level of connectivity to the spiritual part of the planet. And I just think that, she's one of those angels that when people say you need to talk to an angel, you call Colleen, because she's got this connectivity to other angels as well. So Colleen Bradley is our guest today. I'm going to let her tell you how we know each other, so I won't breach any level of anonymity. But Colleen, it's really nice to have you here today. And when I asked you, you were very excited. And a lot of people are like, oh, I can't do that. And, you were very, very positive, and we're real excited to be talking with you today. And, we ask our guests to submit questions. And the reason we do that is we want to make sure we touch on things that are high level of interest for them. And we should point out that you completely ignored that request and did not submit questions. So we're going to free flow, although you did text me some topics that are highly close to your heart. So we'll hopefully get into those. But whatever goes will go for us today. But Colleen, will you mind telling our guests who you are, how we know each other, and they'll find out quickly why I think of you as an angel.
Thanks, Scott. Hey, I am Colleen, and thank you, Michael and Scott, for inviting me. Well, my last drink and drug was August 16th, 1992. And on August 17th, I entered into an inpatient detox / rehab program, which was at Scripps Memorial Hospital. At that time, it was called the McDonald Center. Now it's with another affiliation of institutions in San Diego. I got out after 11 days and I knew I needed to go to meetings, and I like to wake up early. And I found a 6:45 a.m. meeting in Ocean Beach. And at the time I lived in Hillcrest, so I had to take a bus. For the last 3 years of my party time and the first 3 years of sobriety, I had no vehicle. And I did not get a DUI. The police even did a field sobriety test and I passed, because I had such a power of consumption and metabolism that even though I ran into 5 parked cars, I passed the field sobriety test, which is really, really scary. So I continued to drink for another 3 years, by the way. And then I went to this group after my detox and rehab. Of course, I was in the day program then, and then 3 times at night. And I totally immersed myself into what we call the 12-step program of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I found the meeting in Ocean Beach, so I had to take 1, 2, 3 buses to get there. And on the weekends, they run different schedules, but I was able to get there on time. And I started attending 6:45 to 7:45 a.m. at Harmony Group on Sunset Cliffs Boulevard, and it's still there. And that was 30 years ago. It'll be in August, gratefully that they were there when I came, and they were a rowdy bunch. There was people from soup to nuts, and a strong emphasis on the nuts. And I fit right in, because I never met a group of people who could laugh so much at the horrors of our life without being ugly about it. And so that's where I met Scott. And he was a friend of friends. We all just kind of did group things together. And I was blessed to be welcomed into that fellowship and with people. So on we go. I am a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse since 1979. And I drank for the first 13 years and used powder cocaine for the first 13 years of my career. And fortunately, I never had any of those problems either. I didn't use on the job. I didn't steal drugs from the pharmacy. But those, as I can even say, when I laugh at myself, and I said that I thought once upon a time I was a high bottom drunk. And I said, if you don't mind, high bottom drunks, I finally realized, don't wear the same pantyhose 3 days in a row and then turn them around and wear them inside out. So I wasn't a high bottom drunk. I was a real mess. And I had to humble myself, because he who thinks he knows so much and thinks so highly of themselves, as my sponsor says, that's me. And I had to really be grounded in where the disease had taken me, and how many people were truly hurt by because I thought it was an isolated incident. It was just about me. Not so much. And then, as the time goes on, you learn. I love a phrase that someone says, the more I know, the more I don't know, because I don't. And I know that I have to defer to people who are smarter, wiser, have more experience than I. And sometimes the best thing is to just keep my mouth shut. But that rarely happens, as you know. So I've gone on to just take this program extremely seriously. I was told in the program that I needed to admit that I was powerless over drugs, alcohol, or the effects that they had on me. And then my life was unmanageable, AKA the pantyhose story. So then you have to come to believe that a power will take this away from you, and then give that higher power a chance. So for many years in the program, I had spirituality. You know, I was a spiritual person. I believed in God. I was raised Roman Catholic. I had no problem. I think God is a great thing, you know, but I was incensed in the meetings if anyone called their higher power Jesus. I was disturbed. I was angry. I was furious. I said, that is like such an imposition that you would do that to me, you know, in the room by saying that. And as I've come to find out, it's because there's power in the name of Jesus. And I have now, in the last 11 years, no, 12 years, I will be reborn as a Christian, and Jesus is my Lord and Savior. There's something there. There is a commonality. And if you really do study the big book, as I do now, which is our procedure manual for AAs, it does have a lot of reflection and reference to the tenets of any faith. You know, admit you got a problem, clean house, take care of things, apologize, and then don't do it again. You know, that whole business of that, sorry, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I wrecked your car. I'm sorry. Oh, I bumped it over here. I'm sorry. Oh, I called in sick, but I wasn't really sick because I was too busy partying in Toronto, because I grew up in Buffalo, New York. So I'm an East Coast girl. And the apologies are hollow and empty. And now I just know that there is no way that any of us could do sobriety without truly submitting to a power greater than ourselves. So I've studied more about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, about the three sides of a triangle that we put inside a triangle inside of a circle. And the unity is going to the fellowship. The recovery is doing the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the thing that we heal our spirituality is by doing service with and for other people. And that's life. That's what all faiths choose to want their followers to do. And that is like a perfect recipe for joy and happiness. And, you know, I'm as straightforward and as blunt as most people can be. It's like, if you don't think you can get a higher power, what do you think drugs and alcohol were? That stuff was controlling you like it was controlling anything else. And I don't believe my God's controlling, because truly God says himself, he goes, I won't make you do anything. You don't have to follow me. I love you that much that I'll let you go to hell if that's what you really want. And that's the kind of relationship that we can't get between humans, because that's the other problem I have, is I have a little bit of codependency, which I've had to work through too, because I had to realize that I can't do for them what they don't want to do for themselves. And that has taught me over time with sponsees, and as I've come to be mentees and as my coaches. So I'm blessed to just be here, be alive, and to be able to share that even though I am in my mid to late 60s, I still feel very rejuvenated and very fresh. And I know that is because I carry the joy of the Lord with me. So I take that into the program, and I take the program into my life. It's an all or nothing kind of thing for me. You got to accept everything, all parts of my facets, good, bad, and indifferent. But I think that most of it is because I reach out, and, you know, we don't talk about the things we do, and it's unnecessary. And the one thing I will tell you about is when I make a mistake. And I have made some, even recently, that I've had to go back and make amends. So for me, that's what I've learned, is the amends part means you take care of it right away, and you make a vow to yourself, to God, and to that injured person that you'll do your absolute best not to repeat that behavior. Although I'm human and I might, and I don't want to, but I will tell you today that I will do my very, very best not to do that again. So that's about it, except that, I'm pursuing I'm a lay pastor now, and I can do funerals and weddings and baptisms by the state of California. And I'm on my way to seminary. So I'm finishing up next year my undergraduate, and I will go for my master's of divinity, probably in women's studies. As far as the scripture goes, as far as the Old Testament, the first 5 books of the Bible are what other folks call the Torah, and the prophets, and how we need to realize that everything is based on that. And so does Catholicism, so does Islam. Everything else is based on what God did with the chosen people. So I think that there is a real story there behind, and we have to get not necessarily fundamental, but we need to be foundational. And I think that's how I am in my program. It's like, you gotta get to the basics. You can't half step it. You can't pick and choose. You've got to do the whole thing, or you will find out that you get nothing. And I don't have time anymore to settle for nothing. I don't want the crumbs. I want the whole piece of pie.
Well, that explains everything that I said when I labeled you an angel. I think no one has any follow-up questions with that. So I have a couple questions. Now, first of all, thank you for sharing all that. That's important, and it's inspirational. Mid to late 60s. Now, so I'm 68. So when you said that, I thought, well, there's a 5-year window there. So it's 67 and a half. I'm not sure where that would put me, but I'm 68. So I must be in the late 60s. So I'll hang on my hat on that, and we'll move on. So when you share about your experience using while you were working, the healthcare industry, obviously has access to a variety of different things. And you were probably one of the few that didn't take advantage of the pill cart, even though I had friends that were stealing things off the pill cart before DEA actually started, giving numbers and really monitoring those things. Mm-hmm. And then and rather than going backwards, what I'd like to have you share, if you don't mind, is what would you tell individuals and families who have somebody in their family who did similar things or are doing similar things, and they don't know what to do? I mean, I can't tell you how often I hear that. So I don't know what to do. I mean, I just talked to a family today that actually, one of the parents is in recovery, and they have a son who's suffering from this disease. And, they said, I know what I would do if it wasn't my son. I said, well, what would happen if you didn't, but that's part of what I help families with, navigate that, because it's hard when it's someone you love. I mean, whenever I've had issues, I'd go outside of my frame of reference or comfort zone to ask for help. But how would you share with families to help them better understand what next steps might look like to help the person in their life that they care about, and they're watching them basically kill themselves? What would you tell families?
Well, I like you, it's like if they're really close and intimate, I have to get like a third, an objective party, because I would want to take them and shake them and all that stuff. And I'm sure that parents, loved ones, husbands, wives feel that same way about another person. And there's still a stigma that people in this world think that it's a moral issue. They don't understand that there is truly a physical component to this disease. It's physical, it's mental, and it's spiritual. And I would try to educate them on that first, to stop thinking, well, if he just got a job, if he just went to school, if he just, had a baby. Heck no, don't bring a baby into this situation, But there's all those things that people think that it's about. And the bottom line is, when there is, and Scott, you say it all the time, it's a family disease. And it's usually not just one person in the family who's got the problem. And the other people's problem may not be alcohol or drugs, because that's the obvious one, it stands out so much. Their problem may be workaholism, maybe food, maybe something else. But then you can see, and you don't want to like blast people and say, well, you might want to think about it because you're 400 pounds. Maybe there's an issue going on here, but you might have the same thing, but you use a different substance. And, that does need to come in the conversation, but not right away. My bottom line with people is they probably need some help. They need counseling. They probably need an admission to the hospital because they probably need physical detox from the substance, whatever it happens to be. And if that individual doesn't want to get it, you can't do anything in the world to make them do it. Because I believe it's in the story, and I can't quote the page right now, but when it says that even emotional frothy appeals won't suffice. No matter how much you say, do it for your kids. Look at, you got a 3-year-old who's crying, whatever. It's never enough. There is no answer. There is no thing that you could tell them. They can feel guilty as heck, but they're going to go out and use again because you just made them guilty now. So now they got a reason. So that's the thing, is I would say that you need to get a professional in this situation as soon as possible. And if you're praying people, you better start praying for yourself and praying for them, because I don't know how some people get it and some people don't.
Okay, next. I call it the God issue. Good
Yep.
orderly direction. It's amazing. And you've heard my story about,
Yep.
when I came in, it was, I looked at it as one way, and my sponsor said, you really have to think about it. And why do you think, I'm going to answer the question first, and I'm going to get your answer. I think that people think, I think people use I call it the God or the spiritual tie as an excuse not to come in. And they go, well, and what I hear a lot is, well, if there really was a God, why am I in so much trouble? And so how would you, because I know you have a very strong bond with your higher power, who you call Jesus. And I have a higher power in God, because I feel with my grandiosity and trembling uniqueness, I need co-chairs to kind of steward my path, and I want to have backup. So I ask you, what is it you think that people could and should know about the peace? Because it's not something you have to walk in with, but it is something you have to understand, that a power greater than yourself, which I learned could be a tree, a rock, the ocean, the sky, the clouds. Because by giving that power, if you will, or not being that person yourself, you have a much better chance of transformation and change and listening. Because if you believe you're not in control, which you're normally not, you have a much better chance, I think, of, shutting your mouth and listening. So what is your perspective on what pushes people away from, or prevents them from engaging, because they think, oh, it's a religious program?
Yeah. Because it's not religious. I'm not religious. I'm a believer. God didn't invent religion. He created us.
So explain the difference. Explain the difference between
Okay.
someone who's religious, or someone who talks about religion, versus someone who talks about believing. Because I think I want to create a door that doesn't, I want to help create a doorway that doesn't have a door, so you can walk through it. You don't need to have a combination. You don't need a key. The door's, not even there. The walkway is always open. And I believe, from everything I've learned, there's never been a time that somebody wasn't welcomed.
I agree.
Okay.
And I think that that's what we find in AA. Anybody can walk through that door. And I feel that that's exactly what the relationship is. That's the difference between religion and believing, is you're having an intimate relationship with that person, God, Jesus, Allah, Buddha. You're in a relationship. You're not doing A, B, C, D, E to check the boxes, to feel like you fit. You don't have to do anything. God loves you the most. right now. And there's nothing you can do to make God love you any less. And there's nothing you can do to make God love you any more. That's the difference between believing and religion. Religion tells us by the rules made by men that we have to do more and more and more and more to get. Faith tells us that you're okay. And I love you so much. And I don't want to see you suffering. And I don't want to see you in pain. And I will do anything and bring anybody into your life so that you don't have to continue feeling this way.
Okay, that's great. So there's a couple things that you text me that are really high on your, I don't want to say on your list, because they're probably on your heart, that you're involved with above and beyond a couple of things we've already discussed today. Would you like to share what it is you're really passionate about, and just so other people know that there are other people out there that are passionate about it too?
Well, I'm a thriver more than a survivor of very early childhood molestation by my biological father. And he also injured others in my family who are 2 years younger than I, who still can't come to grips with knowing. And the insidiousness of this disease is invading my sister. And so it is not surprising that this is a passion for me. But I also get to work with many women in recovery, and men too now, who use drugs and alcohol to cover the pain of their original injuries that were done to them as innocents. You know, whether it was a coach, a parent, a family friend. So what I've also seen is that it is systemic. It's another systemic epidemic, because those people who are the perpetrators are often injured people themselves, and they're addicts and alcoholics, because they can't deal with that evilness that's inside of them. And sadly, hurt people hurt people. But we also know, recovered people help, recover people. We know that. It's just so pervasive. We can't even imagine. I think the national statistics say 1 in 3 women have been sexually abused, and 1 in 5 men, as boys or women, or grow as they're growing up. And the sad thing is, I think the numbers are even higher. I think most everyone has had something that is inappropriate. So we've got people walking around with a lot of PTSD, and then they get pushed into sex trafficking and human trafficking. And this is devastating. I mean, I know people say, oh yeah, they love doing it because they're dancers on the stage and they're making buku bucks and all that stuff. And I said, who told you that they love doing it? Well, they did. I said, were they high? Probably. They were using drugs, they were using alcohol, and they had been conditioned to think that this is the only way I can make any money to get what I need to get. And I'm like, this is where it happens on this level that we don't even want to see. We think it's all happening in Southeast Asia or the Middle East or South America. It's happening in Joe and Susie's Nebraska, North Platte, Nebraska, Kansas City. It's happening here in San Diego. I have 2 sponsees who were trafficked, and they're just coming to terms with not only with the trafficking that was happening to them, but realizing now that they had suppressed the memory of the childhood abuse so badly because of the drugs and alcohol use. Now the drugs and alcohol are gone, they can start to work on that huge wound that's just gaping open. And so, yeah, this bothers me a lot. And the drugs and alcohol go alongside of this like nobody's business, because it's like you're dealing these people who are dealers, these people who are making the drugs, the fentanyl, the cocaine, the methamphetamine. They're also the same people who are trafficking people. They're bringing them in. And the sick thing is, it's all related to, then you get into pornography addiction. It's like, why are you looking at 12-year-old kids? It just gets worse. And the more drugs you use, the worse your addiction gets with the other issues. And the worse that gets, you feel more decrepit and disgusting. So you use and drink more. It's a vicious circle. And I know that we have to do something to stop this, because it's only getting worse.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. We're going to go to Michael now, who always has the best questions to ask, unless you've answered them all. Michael?
Yeah, I really don't have any questions. Excellent podcast so far. Colleen, why don't you go ahead and we asked you beforehand to come up with a quote of some sort to end the show. So why don't you go ahead and give us that quote, and we'll call it a night.
So I had a toss up. I was either going to give you guys scripture, but I'm going to paraphrase it. And this is kind of like tells me why, to the answer of, if there was a God, why would he allow this? And it is 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 3 and 4. It says, I came alongside of you when you were in your place of death and desperation, so that you can come alongside someone else.